Hey Kimberly, let's take a look at your week 4 assignment 3. I really like this drawing. I like all the variety that's in it, even though it is kind of a very minimal room in terms of all the elements that are in it. You know, there's a lot of variety in terms of the textural stuff that's going on, and it just really comes across as, I think even it seems to highlight even more in the drawing than it does in the actual photograph. Having this stuff in the background, in that kind of backyard with kind of the grass and the trees is great. A little bit of kind of a wood texture, some great reflections within the table itself, and then a lot of variety in the elements themselves that are on the counters and the counters themselves and the cabinetry. It has this nice balance between being very, very minimal and very stark because of the black and white, and having the little punctuations of color here and there, I think really elevate it to something much more interesting than if the entirety of the composition were more kind of this black and white. The marker use is also very, very good in this. It's really consistent. There's these huge areas of space that are just single layers of marker, and they come across as very clean. No stroke kind of overlap, no real kind of areas that get too dark or too light. It's just a great job, I think, of you working with the markers so consistently. So for me, I think the biggest issue that we run into in this drawing ends up being the perspective more than anything else. I don't really have any qualms to give in terms of how you're using the marker or the colored pencil. Overall kind of cleanliness of everything is terrific as well, but there are issues with the perspective. So the biggest one would be that your vanishing point is way up here, beyond kind of the top of the page. In the actual drawing itself, the vanishing point is somewhere kind of around right here. That's where kind of the table is leading to. That's where the cabinetry here is leading to. The main thing is that since the vanishing point is here, that means that the horizon line is here, and that means that elements that are above it, like these cabinets and the top of this shelf, you don't see the top or the bottom of them because they're very close to the horizon line or above it. So you don't see the top of this because it's above the horizon line. You don't see the top of this because it's above the horizon line. The problem becomes that in your drawing you have a horizon line that's way up top because that's where your vanishing point is. So we should actually be seeing more of the tops of these. Or the converse would be to lower the vanishing point to where you have the horizon line in the background, which would be right here, and that means we wouldn't be seeing as much of the top of the table or of the desks. And you can see kind of the difference as we switch between the two, that, you know, there's just a very kind of thin amount of the table that we see here and a very thin amount of this kind of cabinet top, whereas here we're seeing a lot more of the table. Also have to make sure that the legs of your table are kind of matching the perspective. Right now, the table legs, if we follow kind of the bottom and use that kind of as a line, you have them meeting somewhere here, and what they should be doing is basically the same thing that the top is. So this kind of back leg would be much shorter because it would be moving to the vanishing point that's, you know, way up above. The same with this one, it would be much shorter. So there's a little bit of that occurring where things feel just kind of slightly off. And most of it is kind of this disjoin between being able to see a lot of the tops of these and not really being able to see the top at all of what's going on in the background. And then the other thing is, you know, little kind of things like the table legs that don't really match with kind of the top of the table either, kind of throws things off. So you have to make sure, you know, you plot out the perspective really quickly in the original just so that you get a good idea of where everything is, and that is it's gonna really help you out when you go in and do the drawing itself, the drawing proper. But I think other than the perspective, you know, it really has just a huge amount to offer. You know, I love the textural differences. I love the sheen of all the metallic surfaces, especially the table, which I think maybe is what happens, is that you were really kind of into the table and making sure that you got it to feel very reflective, which makes you want to show more of it, so maybe it got a little wider. But it really, everything else kind of about the drawing I think is top notch and looks terrific.